In today's video, we're going to be talking about all the things we've learnt since moving to Portugal. Maybe not all the things. 10? 10
Maybe.
works.
What I've been most surprised about is the way people are welcome here. Literally, even if we bump into people in the supermarket, they will happily get excited about that we're speaking English. At least because we're in an area with not many expats.
Yeah, it's an opportunity for them to practice their English, although I will say, you know, there is a bit of reluctance because there's often a confidence issue. Many people where we live don't have the opportunity to practice English very often, but they're so friendly. I mean, I've had lovely ladies in supermarkets just sort of offering me their telephone number saying, if you need anything, then just contact me. We've had real estate agents who are like, come and meet my wife for coffee and play with the kids. And, you know, just endless offers of generosity, kindness, and a feeling that, you know, that the Portuguese people we've met really want us to feel welcome and belonging, like we belong here.
Yeah, and I think it ends out in that it's almost a gratitude of that they feel lucky or that we like their country, and we're getting such a big welcome here from pretty much everybody we're meeting.
Yeah, that's lovely. Another thing we've noticed here is that a lot of countries that we go to, when you try to speak the native tongue, if it's less than perfect, then often you'll be spoken to in English. But what we found here is if you just give Portuguese a go, then the Portuguese people are very open. They'll listen, they'll correct you in a very loving way, and they'll give you the opportunity to practice the language, and that's one thing we really appreciate.
Yeah, very supporting in the learning journey. Rental market in Portugal. What you need to know before you move to Portugal is that the rental market here is almost not existing, at least not outside of the main hubs. So of course you can rent in Lisbon and Porto and so on, but the rental market is very limited compared to other big cities like London, for example. So it's very hard to find a perfect property to rent, even though it might exist for you to purchase in the same area. So that's one thing you need to keep in mind. And as soon as you leave those main hubs, even if you just drive 20-40 minutes out of those hubs, then the rental market is pretty much not existing. Like, we're talking cities that have maybe less than 10 properties.
Yeah.
On the rental market.
And the other thing to say is the prices have really got up. There's been a lot of press here in Portugal about the exorbitant increase, not only in property values and sales, and that's a whole different topic, but also in the rental market itself. So if you just, for example, go on Idealista and have a look at the rentals in and around the Lisbon area, you'll be astounded at some of the prices. I mean, I've gone online and seen properties that are 10 to 15,000 euros a month, and this is for a 4-bedroom regular apartment. There is nothing substantial, no pool, nothing that in our eyes would justify that level of cost. But
yeah, and also the premium is not linked necessarily to a better area or a better quality property. Not as extreme. I think many cases you will see properties that have been maybe 1,000 euros per month a year or two ago is now maybe 2,000 or 2,500 a month. So the prices on the rental market is very volatile, go very much up and down.
Yeah, same for sales, I will say. That we've seen properties on the sales side of things where within a 4 to 6 month window there's been a 50 to 100,000 euros increase, which is absolutely insane. I've never seen that, even in London, even in my years and years and years of London life and experiencing in London. I've never seen that. So that is definitely unique and speaks to the popularity and the boom of Portugal at the moment. It's very attractive for Lots of people coming here and investors.
Yeah, and again, if you haven't already seen our renting video, please go and find that, but we are sharing a lot of tips on how to get into the renting market here in Portugal. Then to the cost of purchasing cars in Portugal. What you have to think of is that Portugal actually have a car tax. It might not be substantial, but what surprises you is that especially on the used car market, because cars in Portugal last 20, 30 years sometimes, even if they're 5 years old, they might be priced as like what a new car would cost in the UK, for example. Some of that is of course the car tax that plays in, but another bit of it is just that some of them are very highly valued of used cars, just simply because of how long the Portuguese people are able to run their cars here. So the average lifespan of a car is much longer here, and that's why cars here seems very expensive, especially when you compare the used car market to other countries.
And the other thing, just to say, while we're on the topic of cars, what is it with overtaking? There seems to be an obsession that people have, and maybe it's foreigners who come here. I don't know, but it literally seems that people overtake for the most ridiculous reasons. It might even be that after they've almost killed the other road users overtaking, that they literally live 1 minute extra drive away and then they park up, and it just makes absolutely no sense. It's like everybody is in a race to get somewhere, and maybe someone in the comments who knows why this happens can explain it to me, but it's just I'm very curious. It's interesting. So yeah, just a random one.
And then, as we've also mentioned in early videos, especially heating in Portugal is a bit of a surprise. Not that the prices per usage is crazy, but because there's so little isolation in there, you just use a lot more heating than what you were anticipating, especially if you have an older heating system like we do, where you just keep pumping gas through, and the place just don't even get that hot. So look out for if you are on the right plan with the energy provider. There's a lot of different ways you can link, for example, your electricity and your gas account to maybe your Continental supermarket account, and then get different discounts on fuel and on gas and on electricity to get more reasonable priced gas and electricity.
So those of you who've been following us for a while will know that we have been on a property journey to try and find a home that ticks all of our boxes, and that's one of the things that has been supremely challenging for many different reasons. But the thing for us is that we don't want to be too far away from the school that our kids attend, and we had no idea that this would be such a treacherous process. We have met some lovely real estate agents along the way, and I would say on both ends, some really amazing and some just okay, to put it tactfully. But yeah, it's not been easy. For those who've watched some of our other videos, some of the challenges are, just problems with construction, quality of build, the location not being great. What other things have we encountered?
Properties that are not good quality. They haven't thought of isolation, or ventilation. Yeah. So it creates all sorts of different issues with humidity and heating. Problems where properties are priced for a premium that doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's true.
And then even if you look in small areas, you can find 4 bedrooms for like maybe 250,000 and 1.2 million, and you can't really see the big difference between the two properties. Yeah, one might be a little bit bigger than the other, but there's not like it's not like 5 times better. So that can be a bit frustrating at best.
Yeah, there's no real comps. So there's no data to advise. And the interesting thing we found, for example, with one place we saw, is that there is value by the agent. Sometimes there is value based on things that in other countries wouldn't give a property value. So for example, if a house has an annex, they'll say, we've heard, it's 100, that adds 100,000 euros to the value of the property just because it has an annex. And we kind of were like, well, okay, but that generally we've not seen that before, so that's quite unusual.
Yeah, and then another thing to look out for is we've seen houses of maybe 200 square meters, and it's advertised as 390 square meters, almost double the size. So you're looking for the extra square meters first of all if you actually read the listing. And the reason why that's done, sometimes it's probably just wrong information, but another reason is that the square meter price look better. So the square meter pricing, when you look on Idealista, for example, in certain areas can go up from 700 euros to 5,000 euros. So it literally, the data that you normally would analyze through, is the quality of that just doesn't exist here.
Yeah, and there's many, as you say, there's many properties that are priced especially for foreigners. So the price in ordinary circumstances wouldn't really make any sense. You know, and as I said earlier, it can be that the price a few months ago was one value and now it's 50 to 100k more with no real justification on why that price has been uplifted.
Yeah, and then sometimes, I'm not even sure if I've told you that, sometimes I get Idealista updates from things we have saved as favorites, with properties going from 5 to 700,000 just because we're now coming closer to the summer.
Yeah.
So there'll be more expats here that's hopefully looking for properties, so they're preparing for the summer by just hiking it up a bit because it's not sold anyway, so let's just raise the price and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that inflates the market poorly. So what you have to be aware of is that the bank appraisals, if you're going to get a mortgage, might not even add up to what the property is listed for. So if you're saying that you go and buy a property for 500,000, the bank might come out and say this is only worth 350, and then you can only get a mortgage of maybe 70-80% of the 350, which means you need a lot more money if you want to buy for these highly inflated prices. So it can create a whole series of problems in purchasing a property here.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I do love about being here, amongst many, many other things, is the fact that we're not assumed as foreigners. So many will, you know, think that we native Portuguese speakers and won't necessarily assume that we're not, you know, we're not from here, which is so lovely.
And we know that because even if we do speak English and they hear us speak English, they still speak to us in Portuguese, even though they speak English. so you know that they just assume that we are fully integrated.
Yeah, although I will say that my height would ordinarily give it away, but that's the beauty of it. Here, it doesn't matter. So regardless, we feel very welcome.
Absolutely. So as you know, we are based here just north of Lisbon, with 20 minutes away from the coast, something like that. So we would think that we are away from the Atlantic Ocean and the cold wind from there. But nevertheless, as we have also lived in Spain, this is a big surprise because the weather here can either be very, very hot and very nice or very, very, very cold. And literally sometimes, especially now here in May, sometimes you get up in the morning and you feel like you need a jacket on, and in the afternoon you might feel like you need your shorts on. So you need multiple options.
Yeah, multiple layers for sure. We'd recommend layers. Absolutely. A t-shirt, maybe something on top. Make sure you always have options. Have an umbrella, have sunscreen. Just plan for every weather eventuality.
But the good thing is, though, depending on how the wind comes in, you can drive to different coasts. You can drive down towards Lisbon, you can drive up towards Sintra, Ericeira and so on, and you get different weather depending on how the wind comes in. So locally, sometimes it can jump with just 10 degrees by driving 10 minutes. So you can do a lot to just get better weather by knowing where to drive to. So when you do leave the city, so when you leave Lisbon and Porto and so on, the options for trains and buses are very much less. So there is buses, but it's like 1 hour, or very, very, very few. So it's hard to use. Also, to get something like from where we are to Lisbon would take half an hour in a car. By public transport, that would take about 2 hours. The positive thing is, generally you do have Bolt and Uber, which in the daytime covers you. So it hasn't really been a problem for us, but when you're not in the cities, you do need a car.
One thing that I would say, coming from a city like London, where you have every convenience you can possibly think of to cater for a very busy life. It's a different pace here, a different lifestyle, as you all know. And so one thing I would say is, in particular, it depends on where you live, but where we live, there are much less conveniences. So for example, if we have an evening where we don't feel like cooking and we feel like ordering a pizza, that's not really an option to us.
Yeah.
I think there's probably one local pizza company, and we probably wouldn't be eating pizzas from there, let's put it that way.
And also it's a postcode lottery, so we live 10 minutes away from the nearest city, and had we lived 1 mile closer, we would have Uber Eats, but we don't have Uber Eats. So that can be a little bit frustrating.
So what it means for us is, it means things like, you just have to be smarter about how you do things. So think about it when you're shopping, having an extra, depending on how long you're going to be here. For us, it's things like making our own ready meals, freezing them, making pizza dough. So if the kids want quick pizza, I can take that out the freezer, make it. But it's not every day we feel like going out to eat, especially with kids.
And that's the other thing. Not that it bothers us that much, but sometimes when you do feel like you want to eat at 4:30 or 5 and the kids are hungry after a day in school, there's just nothing that's open before 6:37. You're being violent?
You've got an insect on your face.
Thanks for the warning.
So despite having a natural love of cooking, I really enjoy cooking, and so the conveniences is not a huge issue for me, but it's every now and again. Even people who like cooking do want the occasional takeout dish. And one thing I will say is, being Jamaican, it's not so easy to come by my international seasonings and things like that, or maybe specific products for my hair, for example. So I do try and find online sites, and I, for example, order my seasonings at the moment from the UK until I find another option. Mm-hmm. I will do that, and sometimes when you're ordering in bulk, that attracts toll, unfortunately. But that is what it is. But maybe we'll get them directly from Jamaica at some point. We'll see. And then just hair products. They do have, I will say, for afro hair, they do have shops here. They do cater for sort of all kinds of coils and hair textures and types. However, the specific natural products that I prefer organic and natural, and again, it's just something that I need to order online. But it's no biggie, but just something to bear in mind.
The other thing that's worth talking about is if you're working remotely. What we have found here is that the internet is a really good quality and very fairly priced. And here, a year and a half or whatever in, we haven't had anything to complain about. It's very fast fiber internet across the majority of Portugal. It's very widely spread compared to many other countries. The phone subscriptions have been very good. It's a very good 4G network here, so it's very good to work from. The only thing you need to bear in mind is if you do need to do international calls, the roaming packages and the foreign call packages from those phone companies are not super good. So they can be a bit costly, but a unlimited phone subscription in Portugal costs around 35 to 45 euros a month. So on medical insurance here, I don't know what you already used to, but it was new for us. So even when you get the most expensive health insurance here, you still have to bear in mind that they are not fully covering. So the limits of the health insurance are not super high compared to many other countries. For example, when we were in Spain. And then also co-payments is a real thing here. When you're using the health insurance here, you have like co-payments of usually like 17 euros, 30 euros, depending on what you need done. So a hospital appointment, if it's a bit complicated, then it can be easily 50, 60 euros, even you have medical insurance.
In relation to private hospitals, and we have had quite a good experience when it comes to private hospitals here, and I wouldn't say that my Portuguese medical knowledge is I wouldn't say that my knowledge of the Portuguese language for medical terms is anywhere near good. So one thing that we have found is that we have always been able to find doctors who speak English. There's a choice with medical insurance to book appointments online, and instead of doing that I tend to call, and I always ask for an English speaking doctor, and that has been very positive. So in terms of wait times, obviously that can vary depending on the time of day you go and what speciality it is you're attending the hospital for. But generally, we have on a couple of occasions had some wait time, but generally the quality of the expertise is very good. We have used CUF, many different locations of CUF. We've used three to four.
And even when we here the last week used CUF, you call them at 9. You got to see a doctor at 9:40. That you were told only speak Portuguese. He did speak English. And then we had X-rays and also different kind of treatment for our son.
Yeah.
And 3-4 hours after we were out. So it was a very smooth transaction. We were quickly got help and quickly had X-rays and different things to be reassured. And it was very smooth.
Yeah, very exceptional.
If you're considering to moving here, or if you're already here and you're trying to settle in, don't forget to join the Facebook groups of your local area, because they are massively helpful. We're linking our favorite Facebook groups below.
Thank you for watching the video. If you have anything that you would add to the list, please feel free to do so in the comments below. We'd love to hear about all of your experiences, and share them.
And if you've watched so far, don't forget to subscribe.
And like.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.